Now let's give a huge round of applause for Pedro and Dominika!
You are popular.
Cheers. All right. Hope everybody is well seated. And I think that there is only one thing that separates you from the next drink, which is Dominika and I. So we're going to be quick and effective. All right. So people, I want to take you to a journey, or actually travel with me a little bit. So I'm pretty sure we are in Europe, so you have been to different countries, and UK is one of them. And you pack your bag, you bring your devices, your smartphone, your Apple Watch, your laptop, and then you realize that actually to connect everything, you forgot the missing piece. It's not maybe this one here, something more like this, the adapter. So it's an adapter. So what are you missing?
And you may be wondering, what does it have to do with FinOps, right? I am in the right room. It actually has a lot to do with FinOps. This analogy nicely describes how we felt together with my colleague Pedro when we faced the challenge of connecting the costs and the business outcomes together. In theory, we had everything in place, a good cost tracking, a good understanding of the revenue streams, but somehow we couldn't connect the two. We were missing an adapter. My name is Dominika Pach, and I am a director of engineering at OLX. I will be happy to walk you through the journey of reinvention of TBM with FinOps for digital platforms. And one of the reasons I was keen to participate in this project was that ever since I became an engineering leader, I was always challenged to prove my team's value. It's not a secret that engineering teams are rather costly and expensive, and our ability to prove the value of the engineering teams was critical.
Yeah, my name is Pedro Veloso. I'm the head of FinOps at OLX as well. My career actually has been built mostly in finance, so I've been working decade-long in finance, and more recently I also moved into FinOps, also to get more impactful, so in technology investment decisions. Dominika and I have been in this journey for about 2 years of this TBM/FinOps, which we're going to explain a little bit better. But before that, just to set the right stage, some of you or most of you might have heard of OLX. That's a company that we work for. OLX is an online marketplace, classifieds business. Don't say this out like kind of eBay style. We have different segments where we operate: real estate, jobs, autos, and pretty much you can buy and sell everything in our marketplace. I think most importantly to highlight is that we do have a big footprint in different regions in the world, but the themes that or the story that we are telling here is specifically about the OLX Europe branch, which has 8 countries. We operate in 8 countries. We have many different brands. You can see here Automoto, Todom, a bunch of them. And we do have a decent number of users. So right now we're trending around 15 million daily active users and 60 plus listings, so the actual posts that goes to our platforms. If you look to the right-hand side of the map, that's the total number of OLXers, so the employees that we have. We have 2.5 thousand more or less. But what I wanted to highlight is that out of those, 1,000 of them are techie, so engineering, product, data folks. And because of this number, we are relevant in cloud as well. So we have hundreds of accounts, we have like a big footprint, we are ranking in the multi-million-dollar club of AWS. We are using AWS exclusively. And not unexpectedly, we do have a FinOps team, which is led by me. But the FinOps team actually has been created a long time ago already. We even have one colleague here who was the founder. But what I wanted to explain to you is where we are standing in FinOps right now, also to set the context before we jump into the journey of TBM and FinOps combination. So looking into the framework of the FinOps Foundation, we have the crawl, walk and run, everybody knows that. It's really hard to fit in one of these categories full-blown, so I said that I'm going to invent one my own. So I will be walking fast enough to spill a coffee. So walking a little bit too fast, running a little bit too slow. It's like in between. And I'm happy there. I mean, more or less. We have the FinOps capabilities mostly adopted, not all of them. We have automation covering most of our needs, not all of them. Forecast variance is good, also below 3%. But I think the most important part is that our spend is well understood, but in terms of context and linking that to business is the missing piece of this juggle. That led us to think and to have a discussion internally where to move next in this story. And we had this dilemma, and it was an actual debate whether we should keep climbing the FinOps Foundation maturity state ladder and going to run, fly states, whatever you want to call it, or detour slightly and go to what we call moving FinOps to the strategic area, to strategic realm of discussions. And spoiler, this is the route that we chose. So,
so what are the strategic discussions about? Usually it's about the priorities. What do we want to invest in? What investments would we want to put on hold? And the holy grail of all of those prioritization discussions is an ROI framework, where you put on one hand the costs, on the other hand the business outcomes. So when it comes to OLX, we had quite good understanding of what we are spending money on. We had the good cost tracking, as Pedro mentioned, with the cost centers, engineering, marketing, etc., cloud costs. On the revenue side, we also had a good understanding of the revenue streams. It was segmented, coming from different categories, different products, etc. But we were missing a very important thing, that was, what are we spending our money for? And the answer seemed to be simple. We are spending our money for the digital product. But with that level of granularity, you cannot make any meaningful decisions, right? You don't make a decision whether you want to keep investing in your still profitable digital product. You want to go one level below. You want to understand what those 1,000 product engineering data team work on. And as I mentioned, it's quite a challenging task to define what 1,000 people do. So at this stage, we started thinking of, we need to seek some frameworks. There must be other people that face similar challenges.
Yeah, and that's when we actually got to find TBM. For those who are not familiar with TBM, TBM stands for Technology Business Management. So this is we call it an intersecting discipline to FinOps. And we understood that some of the elements that were missing in FinOps could be found in TBM. And we were supporting by a leading consulting company, specialized also in TBM, to build that. And we had this vast variety of options of journeys and milestones that we could follow to achieve what we wanted to do, which is finding this connector and connecting costs to outcomes. And they are a little bit outlined here in this very simplified diagram. So we were seeking solutions, just to be clear. We are not tied to rigid frameworks, but TBM helped us to achieve what we are going to show in a minute. What I wanted to say is that this was also a bit overwhelming for us. So we also had to understand what from FinOps had to happen first, and what from TBM had to happen first. So finding a sequence of events. Therefore, we created a timeline, a roadmap. What was for us an implementation roadmap of FinOps connected to TBM, and where they overlap, where they are mostly necessary or standalone. And it starts from the composition of the platform, which we are going to explain each of these steps a little bit more in detail in the upcoming slides. But it ends up with the answer to the question of what we are spending the money for. So what's the outcome? So what's the value? Because I think that the discussions that we sometimes have in FinOps are a lot focused on costs, but we are missing actually the value, the outcome of that. And that's what we are trying to pursue with this. So the timeline is laid out, and we are going to go to each of these steps to just illustrate more in detail what we've done. Okay,
so the first step, the first milestone for us was to decompose our digital platform into smaller components. I hope that everyone is familiar with the e-commerce platforms, and I don't need to explain what it does, but in a nutshell, you can see here a screenshot from OLX Portugal, where you can see a search feature, category browsing, accounts, chats, etc. we decided to break down our digital platform into those components. It seemed to be a natural split for us, not only because our teams were organized this way. As I mentioned, 1,000 product data engineering people working on it, so we had to somehow split ourselves around it. But it is also very connected to the user journey and how users experience our platform. But what we were missing was a fine-grained catalog where we could store the list of those features, products, you can call it differently, and also the right granularity level. At the same time, we also had some gray areas, tons of challenges. So this is when we started discussing creating a product catalog. Just think of a list of thousands of services. As a FinOps practitioners, I'm sure that you've seen a list of thousands of services and the cost that they generate, but they don't work in isolation. They fire up together to create a business value, like a dark sky full of stars with no connection until you start creating constellations, right? And this is where the technical challenges started showing up. What if one star belongs to multiple constellations? What if one service needs to power up multiple services? So this was a little bit challenging for us, and we decided to involve our engineering teams at this stage, our senior engineering leaders. Fortunately, they were going through a similar process with breaking down the monolithic application into microservices. This is not any different, right? They were creating domains. For those who are familiar with the domain-driven design, it is very popular when breaking down the monolithic application into microservices. And we said, okay, we are doing the same. Let's pair up. And what we brought together with Pedro to the table, to the engineering table, was actually some sort of governance, definitions, processes, how it can be structured. So it was a win-win situation for us.
Yeah, and with that groundwork that has been done, which took us way too long than we were expecting. We thought that creating a simple product catalog can be something like you can do in a few months. It took us like over a year to do that successfully. And the result of that, actually, of the mess that was before, can be seen here as in this kind of fuzzy word map. And the question that I had here was actually, this is a tagging dimension, and the tagging dimension is product. And the values that were returning from the tagging when we saw that were everything, every other thing, but except for a product. So we found components, we found functions, shared, managed, and the question was product. We found team names, consumer, transactions. We found even AWS resource. So an RDS was tagged RDS. So that was excellent, very insightful.
Informative.
For us. And that's the realization that also we want to share, that high tagging coverage doesn't mean anything without meaning zero. And don't overestimate the impact of guardrails and guidelines on what taxonomy, what needs to be tagged and how. Because if you allow also ultra decentralization of responsibilities, you end up with something similar to that, if not worse.
Yeah, and what I want to also mention, I attended multiple presentations today, and everyone was talking about creating a cost visibility, reporting the cost to the cost owners, cost managers, and it was always tied to the organizational structure. I wanted to highlight that it is not people who are generating those costs, it is a product that generates those costs. And organizations tend to go through reorganization. You know, there's a new investment, we put teams elsewhere, right? We want to invest there. Some of the solutions are in the maintenance mode, etc. So it is very important to tie it to the product, to the services your company does, not to the team structure, because it will change.
Yeah. And that is the FinOps part, cost allocation tags, which is no news for most of you here. Then maybe the new news here, it's the TBM element that now in this conference, it has becoming the FinOps element, which is going beyond cloud. And this slide was ready way before the keynote speech of JR Storm, by the way, we didn't say that for him. And what we wanted to also highlight is that we decided to, when we look at the cost structure of any digital platform, and you can probably find similarities in all of them. You do have like a relevant infrastructure, hosting, cloud footprint. But actually the number one cost element is staff, payroll, salaries, labor costs. And you need to model that into your scheme to also have the full visibility, the so-called, the famous total cost of ownership. And that's what we also did here. So we not only looked into AWS, but we also looked into, on the left-hand side, SaaS, we call here third-party tooling. So we also started adding new relevant contracts that we had within this model. But on the right-hand side, we also apportion costs from staff directly into our products via developer activities. So number of deploys and frequency of deploys into each of the products that we had in our catalog. Details we can also share later. But that's the total cost view that allows us to have the conversation that covers the cost structure, the entirety of the cost structure of a digital platform. And with that, we had the model ready. However, nothing is as good as it is maintained. So we actually had to find a good and solid automation process to keep everything running. And although there were many others, I think the one that I really wanted to bring here and emphasize is the solid connection of developer portals to FinOps tools. And the reason for that I'm highlighting that is that for companies that use developer portals, you actually have a lot of the metadata stored there and maintained there like frequently. And that's the source of truth for many of the companies. And instead of creating alternative realities and other views and other competing views, you actually can reuse from a solid database. And that's exactly what we've done. So we've connected, so our products had like aliases, and the teams don't need anymore to tag 110, 15 dimensions, teams, owners, criticality, whatever. Everything is stored in the developer portal, and with that alias, we fetch all other information from the dev portal directly into our tools as virtual tags. So this is done automatically, and it's, as Dominika said, because it's tied to products, not teams, not people, it's resilient as well.
Yeah. And our development teams also ensure that that catalog, that dev portal is always up to date. They cannot release anything new without adding it to the catalog. So we have a great visibility into the changes, and with, for instance, reorganizations, etc. You don't need to update tags, right? Everything is in dev portal. You just need an alias, a link to the service from cloud tooling. Okay, let's move on. So to finish the cost view, we wanted to talk about how usage of the product influences the costs. So both TBM and FinOps propose using some sort of unit of economics. In TBM, it's called unit of consumption. In FinOps, it's unit of economics. But it's more or less the same. So the unit of consumption helps you to understand, no surprise, how your product is being consumed. It forces you to understand who are your clients, and you need to capture it, and you need to also monitor it. But when it comes to our broken down digital platform into smaller products, we had to define it for each element, right? For each item in the catalog. For some of them, it's easier because they are UX oriented, so like search, recommendations, etc. For some other that are not visible, but also very important, we also had to do it. So in this example, we have search, a unit of consumption that we defined was a number of search requests, and we could start tracking how the cost changes over time, how much we pay for one search request, etc. But most importantly, this was a bridge for us to connect the costs with revenue. So no matter what monetization model you have implemented on the platform, usually users go through certain steps, and search is one of them. It's in the critical path. And usually more search requests mean more orders, more transactions, more revenue. So finally, we could attribute the cost of performing a search to the revenue it was generating. And as Pedro mentioned at the beginning when showing the journey, this is unfortunately the last step that we will be describing here. There are two remaining ones. One of them is revenue attribution model. So if we do it, and we are working on it very hard right now, we will be able to bring both costs and revenue to enhance our planning and budgeting process.
Yeah, we haven't gone to the end of the journey. We had a few examples that we have already showed to the company, and they have like already proved the value of them. But what we kind of are envisioning is something close to that. So it's quite overwhelming, but I'm going to quickly navigate you through this overview. So that's a vision of how we see the OLX platform from a full-fledged overview. And starting from the top, you see there is a big block called business. What this means. So these are the layers that we see, or the lenses that we see OLX through, that are closer to the customer, the revenue, the outcome. So that's the top line. And then we have the platform, the marketplace side. And I'm going to skip the middle and go straight down to the bottom. And there you see the costing part. So the costing part is also layered. So you have cost pools, types of work that are employed, teams that are doing that, and something that TBM calls resource towers. It might have a clash with focus definitions as well. And in the middle part, you have the glue. So the whole adapter that we have been talking about. So how you can actually put these two views, the costing view and the revenue view together. And how we've done that is through the digital products that are also layered within some areas, life cycle experience, domain service, and shared service.
Yeah, let me walk you through one of the examples. So OLX platform in Poland, each marketplace has two sides, like supply and demand. I'm proud of being a leader of the demand side, so I will walk you through the journey that I'm familiar with. Let's imagine a buyer who is trying to find an item, and he or she is going through a searching and discovering phase. They want to perform a search. In order to show him or her results of search, they need to use multiple services. One of them is Indexer, another one is Search Engine, Autocomplete API. There can be many more because we listed only here a few examples. But you can see that those independent services, they need to work all together to deliver a business value, to actually satisfy a user. And search, at the same time, is also utilizing some of the shared services, such as media service, ad service. For instance, with media service, we provide images to the ads that we show to the user. So it is important to see how these things connect with each other and what is actually the flow between the services that are there to provide the business value.
Yeah, and on the bottom part, you have, as I said, layerings of cost views. So you have resource towers, which are application, compute, storage, and you can go all over that. You have teams. In this case, it's a search and team working to maintain that with the platform team. Work categorization is another metric we track. If it's regulatory work, keep the lights on, in this case, keep the lights on, and the cost pools. So this is the end, last mile. So are we talking about payroll data? Are we talking about financial data coming from invoices from suppliers? And that's how we build the full view of our platform, like in a structured way. And I cannot emphasize that more, that this kind of perspective, it takes a really long time to make like something solid and something that you can really understand, and that has some level of consensus in the organization. I'm talking also about like 1,000 people organization with a lot of opinionated people and with good reasons. But I think that's the go-to overview for digital platforms. Otherwise, you simply cannot manage the organization with the level of detail that is necessary.
Yeah, and I also wanted to mention a few other use cases, examples how this product catalog can be used. So the moment we started creating it, we started coming up with ideas on how we can utilize it. And I will share an example of engineering operation processes, right? In every product you may have some incident, some bug, and you want to also report on those. And you can structure it using the product catalog. And with the finance view, you can complement it, you can supplement it with the financial view. So for instance, you can calculate how much does it cost for you to have a downtime, 10 minutes downtime, etc. Or what are the critical services, what is the user critical journey that need to be always up and running? And you need to support them with some, I don't know, scalability strategies, reliability strategies, etc. So it will allow the FinOps practitioners and the teams to have a conversation on slightly different level. You will understand the business and you won't need to fight for attention, right? Because you will bring the total cost of ownership. You will also be able to show how much value a given service brings, and then you can participate in the strategic discussions.
Yeah, and the final note here is that we are talking about digital platforms that operate with intangible services most of the times. In this case, we are very recent with this industry of digital platforms. So if you compare to high capital intensive industries, automobile industries, for example, you have supply chain departments that dissect the whole chain, and they know all the details, all the metrics. I think we don't maybe need to go that extreme, but there is indeed an opportunity, a room to go deeper into the digital platform and create structure on how we call things up. And I think that's a necessary step for digital platforms on a more strategic level on how to manage this as well. With that, just a few final notes on recap and learnings. Number one is Dominika emphasized that product is the thing. So we believe that FinOps can become more product-centric. We've seen a lot of cost discussions, but it can be actually strategic discussions, value-driven discussions, not only resource utilization, infrastructure topics. It can go up in the ladder. Don't overestimate the impact of a good product catalog. It takes time, but it needs to be solid. It needs to have like good level of agreement and automation to keep things running as well. Data doesn't need to be 100% perfect. There will be a lot of debates. Even if we open our allocation rules, a lot of you will disagree, but we need to find some sort of pragmatism here. Otherwise, you also don't get things moving. So it's a fine balance, it's a fine tuning between complexity and like effectiveness of the allocation keys that you're gonna apply. And the last point is we are showing FinOps and TBM, and that's fine, that's our story. We are happy with this blend, but we really didn't stick in the beginning frameworks. We are not tied and rigid to that. And don't get me wrong, Joe, we love FinOps, the foundation and the framework. But I think I really advise you all to seek the solutions for the problems that you have. So it might be that you have other intersecting disciplines, and be creative. Find what makes sense for you in your case. With that, we really want to thank you all. It was one of the last sessions. We want to invite you to keep building on this product-centric FinOps with us, beyond cloud cost control. My name is Pedro Veloso.
My name is Dominika Pach. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
Now, I want to warn you all, I didn't warn the last session and somebody got hit in the face. So when we're moving, just, pay attention. Any questions for our speakers?
Was it so clear?
Super clear. I take this as a compliment.
Yeah, me too.
Absolutely. Here we go.
Hi. How did you force your product team to look into FinOps or look into these best practices?
Yeah. When it comes to FinOps standalone, we use tools to support us on identifying recommendations and opportunities of savings. We kind of automated parts of this process. We also have been in the FinOps journey for really a long time ago. We're talking about 2015. So our organization is very FinOps oriented by nature, and we have a solid platform team as well that helps us building on this knowledge. So there is already some built-in cultural mindset that helps us, but we have tools as well. When it comes to this whole framework here, it's a bit broader than that, and we are just adopting it and also starting to show the total cost of ownership, not only cloud costs.
Yeah, and I think what's also important to mention is that usually the product leaders are responsible for investment cases, right? They are responsible for bringing or building the business cases. And we can provide data, right? So we are definitely a resource that they are looking for in order to show what is the potential cost of the solution that they are thinking about. With some historical data, we can provide estimations, predictions, etc. But I think that we would lie if we said that it was very easy to involve them from the very beginning. It was a collaboration between finance and engineering at the beginning, but we see more and more involvement of product, and they see more and more value coming from this project.
And maybe last one, building on top of that, a better way to approach cost optimization is, instead of optimize your product, is should we really be building this product at first place? And that's what we are trying to do here. So anticipating this discussion with the value that the product will bring, and even like having this discussion not with the engineering folks, but with the product team.
Oh, should we maintaining the product? Should we disable it? Maybe it is generating only costs and not enough revenue. So these are the type of discussions that we want to have with product.
So when do you make that call? Do you have a rule set or something that after a quarter or after 2 quarters, we need to get rid of this product because it's not generating any revenue?
We do have monthly business reviews to track, again, more to my FinOps realm here, cloud cost computing optimizations and general cost trending, and like the items that are happening on the FinOps world. For this mechanism, we haven't structured like a regular cadence. So we're just releasing like snapshots of reports and insights and teasing the organization. We haven't yet figured something out.
Yeah, but what I can say, it will definitely be aligned with the planning process, right? You need to go with the organization rhythm. You need to go with the quarterly planning or annual cycle that is defined in every organization. So it may differ depending on the organization you are in.
First of all, thanks a lot for the presentation. It was very clear, but we do have some questions. About the change management part as well, you mentioned in the beginning how, directions of engineering, they're always fighting to prove the value of their teams and fighting for attention. As we bring more costs into the total cost of ownership and the sum of how much each part of the product costs, did it make people uneasy about proving their value or feeling like they're not delivering enough value given the costs of what they're building? And how did you manage getting them on board instead of making them feeling more afraid or less willing to collaborate in your journey?
I think that there are two sides of the same coin, right? On one hand, a given team brings outcomes, revenue, value, product feature, whatever it is, and on the other hand, they generate cost. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to increase awareness in engineering teams, in product teams, that there are two sides, and we also wanted to give them some tool to measure their efficiency. So the unit of economics, unit of consumption, and tracking this, how it changes over time. So I think it was rather a positive engagement because they could start tracking it and optimizing, most importantly, optimizing. But the fact that those metrics are so business oriented, they are oriented to what they do. We didn't even struggle much to get the data already, right? Because the teams track who is using their product, how many requests they get, etc. We just told them like, this is your total cost of ownership. Now you can see how you are doing when it comes to the unit of economics. So yeah, I think it was positive, and I hope it answers your question.
Hi, great presentation. I'm from booking.com, so I can relate to a lot of consumer-facing issue which you guys have mentioned. The thing which I most relate to is you guys mentioned something about you bringing in revenue as well to do the cost analysis. So how are you guys doing that translation of cloud investment versus the revenue increase? That is one of the challenges which we are facing. Like, we are not able to segregate the cloud investment and its incremental benefit on revenue. So how are you guys doing this?
So I think in order to do that properly, you need to have a metrics tree. So each metric in the product eventually goes to the top line metric, which is the transaction. And you need to calculate the weight of that metric. So for instance, indirect impact of the transaction can be search request. And each team is prioritizing the work in their own scope. For instance, in search, they are prioritizing improvements in search. They want to have more search requests. They want to have more relevant items, etc., visible to the end customer. But we know that a certain percentage of search requests will end up with transactions, and transactions mean revenue. So this is how you build that model.
And still, if adding quick on that, even though we might not have gone to the end of the journey, what we are at least doing better than we were doing before, although it's not fully rolled out, is that we are allocating the costs more accurately also to our business units and our business lines. This means that instead of doing more generic allocation keys like revenue, FTE, whatever, you do this through actual usage of consumption, units of consumption. And only that can already be a game changer when you're looking, for example, into the profitability of your business lines. Maybe you have been overlooking it. It might be upside down. We found a case that there was a little bit of a difference, and we are now investigating that because the demand generating factors of tech might differ from these generic allocation keys, and only that is already pretty good as a starting point.
Just a supplement to that, if I may. So the areas which generating less revenue are you guys impacting the focus of those particular areas? If particular area is generating less revenue, then it will have an impact on their cloud focus or cloud budget?
Just to see if I got your question right. So you're saying that if there are consequences to business lines that have been not net positive, something like that, profitable wise. So again, we haven't gone to that level yet. So that demonstrated that there was a difference between some of our allocation keys versus the new allocation key, but it didn't really made us make a drastic move yet. So, and also because this model here, although it's awesome for understanding let's say, the demand generating factors and how the cost is flowing through the ecosystem of tech. For financial standpoints, I'm coming from finance. For financial standards, when you have like month-end closing routines, like short deadline, you need to validate 100 things, like checking 100 allocation keys, all the surface, it can be chaotic for financial processes. So maybe what we're even discussing is maybe we can use this complementary to the finance process, like to see maybe the real thing, but for finance we use like a common agreement of allocation keys because it's sometimes practical.
For now.
For now, okay, yes, for now.
One back here. I have a question for you. OLX FinOps team has been one of the first. They were the first part of my own personal community that I met a long time ago with the team there. As you've evolved into this product-centric model, were there capabilities in these frameworks that weren't as highly prioritized as they started to become as you moved into this new model? Like, oh, this one wasn't one that we were doing or focusing on it as much, and now it is.
It's tagging for sure.
Yeah, tagging, I think it's more of a consequence.
Yeah.
What I would say is that the challenges that OLX had back in the days were very different than the challenges that we have nowadays. So just to contextualize, 7 years ago or even more, we were migrating from on-prem to cloud. So imagine that there is a completely different perspective. You're implementing FinOps, you need to actually give the bare minimum transparency level to everyone, so to inform them. So it was way more like a showing back and letting people know what was happening and doing some remediation and some recommendation on a high level. For us now, after this journey has been passed and we are way more mature and experienced, and the company itself is also more stable, now we can move like yards into other areas that we are not focusing that much. And product is one of them. I think that the capability that enhances the most is the understanding of the business product. Like, what are we selling? What are our revenue lines? How this ties back to an account in AWS that is running T2 Nano. You know, like this is the kind of discussion that I think it evolved. But yeah, that relates to the maturity state of the company as well.
Plug for the podcast. Last time I talked to Pedro, we were talking about bridging the gap between finance and IT. Now you're bridging the engineer to the business, to the end market product. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Any more questions for our presenters? Way in the back. Come on, someone, I want to throw this.
Don't throw it.
All right. Okay, no problem. Well, all right, thank you very much. Let's give a big round of applause.
Thanks for watching. Check out more FinOps X Europe content on our YouTube channel playlist. Like, subscribe, click the notification bell, and leave comments and questions for speakers to help our channel. We appreciate your support.